No way. All right. Well, we're good now. I don't know why it was muted. It shouldn't have been. Damn. Let's take it from the top. Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Wake and Take. It's your boy, Jason, and boy, do we have some football to talk about today. We're going to try to keep things short as I am opening for the great Sonic Truth podcast. I'm the Rolling Stones to Chuck Berry today. It's exciting. Bringing the verbiage of opening to the podcasting world. Why not, right? Why not? So we're going to keep things quick. We're going to keep things exciting, and we're going to get you guys pumped up for the Sonic Truth. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Back in the regular digs, back home, ready to talk some football with you guys. So why don't we sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. We'll start things off with a little Thursday night football discussion. Boy, was that a good game last night. It really, really was a good game, and I was not expecting it. Every time I see the Saints have to play a primetime game, I get a little sleepy. I get a little unexcited, if you will, because they just do not play fun football games. But that was not the case last night. As last night, we did have a thriller, especially in the fourth quarter. Went from 16 to 24 to 24 to 24 to then finally 31 to 24 off the game-winning touchdown from Christian Kirk. What a catch and run by him. What a performance by the Jaguars. What a performance by some of the Saints. Tons and tons of fun to watch last night, at least the second half. First half, not so much. Very classic Saints game. But in the first half, we were at least treated to Travis Etienne domination. And I've got to say, all offseason we talk about this. Everyone talks about this. It's not a unique point. But really all you have to do for fantasy football, this stuff does not need to be hard. Just attach yourself to a good offense. And why not have chosen the Jacksonville Jaguars? I mean, damn, are they looking good right now? I know it's been rough, especially for the Trevor Lawrence department, but I mean, ETN now has 2 touchdowns in 3 straight games. If you go check out Profiler NFL on Twitter, I posted the stats of what he's done the last 3 weeks. It's insane. He has 100 receiving yards. He has over 200 rushing yards. He has 6 touchdowns. It's been spectacular as he's gone on to be the #1 running back over the last 3 weeks. And I mean, it should have been expected. I mean, last season, while it was a down year and people were disappointed, and he still had over 1,000 yards attached to the Jaguars offense that was growing. So honestly, his draft capital or his ADP should not have been where it was. He should have been drafted a bit higher, but that's the beauty of fantasy football. You can find steals like that every single year. And another steal. We've got to talk about this. Christian Kirk. We talked about it on this show. Maddie Kiwoom and I talked about it on Trade Gods. Billy Muzio talked to you guys about it on The Dominator and First Class Fantasy. Podfather talked to you about it on all of his shows. Everyone here at Player Profiler was screaming from the rooftops, do not draft Calvin Ridley. Draft Christian Kirk. And man, we've got to victory lap this because he has been on fire the past few weeks, and Calvin Ridley really has not. Calvin Ridley, of course, still going to have his games, as we've talked about, with wide receivers, especially with really good quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence. For the most part, you can't expect any one of them to pop off any given single week. He's going to find, it's going to be a Christian Kirk week. It's going to be an Evan Ingram week. It's going to be a Calvin Ridley week. It's going to be a Travis Etienne week every single week. So who's going to be the most important person in this offense? Well, it's probably going to be the guy in 2022 who was number 5 in red zone targets, number 3 in slot snaps, and had the 14th most receptions despite only the 24th highest target share among wide receivers, and finished the year with 8 touchdowns, a fantastic part of the Jaguars offense last season. And all of that usage is exactly the same. And that's what we highlighted. We told everyone that would listen. Everyone. Christian Kirk is the slot receiver for the Jaguars. That is not changing with Calvin Ridley. He's still going to get a ridiculous amount of snaps out of the slot. He's still going to get a ridiculous amount of usage. He's still going to get the touchdowns. He's still going to get the important receptions. And Trevor Lawrence is still going to look his way. Well, I mentioned he was number 3 in slot snaps last year. He's number 4 this year. He was number 24 in target share last year. He's number 24 in target share this year. He had the 14th most receptions last year. Christian Kirk has the 14th most receptions this year. He had 8 touchdowns last season, the whole season. He already has 3 touchdowns this year. We are looking at almost an exact same season from last year to this year with Christian Kirk, and I couldn't be happier. Another steal found in this Jaguars offense, and that's why, again, we've got to say, attach yourself to offenses in fantasy football. Don't reach for guys like Darren Waller, who are going to be on the shitty Giants, right? Just go get Evan Ingram a few rounds later. He's on the Jaguars. It's so simple. So I'm excited to be even a bit more firm on this next season. You will definitely want to be tuning into Wake and Take all off season, the rest of this year, of course. But man, what a fun victory lap found in this Jaguars offense. Great game by them yesterday. Mentioned the 2 touchdowns by ETN. Mentioned the game-winning touchdown from Christian Kirk. And I mean, that's honestly where it ends. Trevor Lawrence had a pretty pedestrian day, only 200 yards and a touchdown. Evan Ingram, only 5 receptions for 45 yards. He was 0.9 points away from making me cash my underdog ticket. I literally, $10 on a 3-leg on underdog. It was the free Travis Etienne over basically over half a yard. I got Alvin Kamara over 4.5 receptions, and I did Evan Ingram over 7.85 fantasy points, and he finished with 7. So, painful. But, that is what it is. But I do want to talk about the Saints a little bit here, too, because Alvin Kamara, my God, Alvin Kamara, what a steal. Patting myself on the back. He is saving my Scott Fishbowl team. For the first 3 weeks of the season, I was 2-4. They had the median scoring. But I did draft Alvin Kamara in the 9th round in the Scott Fishbowl. And boy, has he saved my team. Since he's returned, I've been 5-1. He scored over 40 points for me in that format last night. I'm just so glad he's here. He's back. He's playing at a ridiculous level. It is only now 3 games back. I guess 4 now. I can't even remember if they had the bye week. Doesn't matter. Now 2 games now with over 10 receptions since returning from suspension. Finished yesterday with 12 receptions for 91 yards. And what's spectacular about that is he didn't even have the most targets on the team. Chris Olave, who I need to talk about a little bit here. 15 targets for Chris Olave. Only brings in 7 of them for 57 yards. What's terrible about that is Taysom Hill had 10 less targets and only 7 less yards than Chris Olave. And here is why we're seeing such a discrepancy with Chris Olave. It's a little miserable with the performance he's putting on the field. I'm going to share this video. Found this on Twitter. Chris Olave not putting in effort. Hopefully you can see my screen here.
Short field or a shorter field.
Just throwing it. And as you can see, Chris Olave started jogging. So Derek Carr obviously mad at him there, as you see, throwing his fists, yelling at Chris Olave. I would be too. That is not the first time this season even that we've seen this. That was not the only time this game we saw this. Chris Olave frequently. Go look it up. Multiple times he's just given up on routes, started jogging, and Derek Carr is missing him. But only missing him because Chris Olave stopped running his routes. I'm concerned. He's not putting forth the effort, and he is not playing well, and he's on a bad offense. I don't like this Saints offense. The only person I want is Alvin Kamara. I'm you know what? Screw it. I'm victory lapping right now this morning because I'm feeling good. I traded Derek Carr and the 106 this offseason for the 103, and I got CJ Stroud with it. That 106, I believe, was Quentin Johnston. So I technically gave Derek Carr and Quentin Johnston for CJ Stroud. And I'm just so pumped this morning, boys, fellas, ladies, whoever's listening. It is just good morning. Good morning over here on the Wake and Take. What a game. So glad I got to watch that one. Fun game. You love when they're close on Thursday night. And I got to say also, I've never said this, Thursday night football is my favorite type of football. I don't really care about Monday night football. Don't really care about Sunday night football. I don't know why, but Thursday night football just gets me pumped. All right. Let's start talking about some week 7, everyone, because there's some good games this weekend, some fun storylines, all that stuff. But we'll start off with the injuries that you need to monitor, becoming a favorite here on the Wake and Take as I run down everyone who's hurt, who's missed practice, all of that. So let's talk about it. I'm also this week throwing in some limiteds, throwing in some full practices of some players who have been missing some time, lots of them. First off, Kyler Murray. Again, as we talked about on the show, returning sooner than later. Said it all off season. He was going to return earlier than people were expecting. Here we are. Activated off the IR, practiced limited on Wednesday. I believe still limited on Thursday. I'm sure he'll be limited today. Looking like he'll probably play, but if not, he's definitely returning next week. Definitely keep your eye on Kyler Murray. Those of you who heeded my advice even this season, been talking about stashing him on basically every single waiver episode. On your IR slots if he was available in your single QBs. Been talking about trying to buy him in super flexes. It's looking like he's going to be back. And I mean, this Cardinals offense didn't look bad with Josh Dobbs. I fully expect Kyler Murray to be Kyler Murray when he returns. So keep your eye on that for sure. Justin Fields is still doubtful. I'm sure he'll officially be out at some point. This game against the Raiders, I think, is going to be terrible. And it's looking like it's going to be a battle of the running backs. I think it's going to be Brian Hoyer versus Tyson Bagent. As we found out, Jimmy Garappolo is officially out. It could be Aiden O'Connell, but when I look at this, especially since front offices and coaches know that both teams are going to be without their starting quarterback, I expect them to just run the ball heavily. I expect the Raiders to give Josh Jacobs 40 carries. I expect the Bears to give Deontay Foreman 40 carries, as Roschon Johnson also did not participate this week, and it's looking like he won't play with his concussion. So it's looking like a battle of running backs this week. I'm not really worried about Brian Hoyer or Tyson Bagent, even in my Superflex leagues. I mean, if you have to, you have to, but I would almost bet that a wide receiver or running back would score more points than them. So make sure you take a look. Feel free to tune into the Start Sit streams on Sunday, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We're all there answering your questions. So tune into those for sure, especially when it comes to the Bears and the Raiders. Deshaun Watson is officially limited. He was limited on Wednesday, limited again yesterday, or maybe it was just yesterday that he was limited. Doesn't matter. Limited. He's practicing. It's looking like he will be playing this week with his shoulder injury. Been a very weird thing. But as we kind of know, when a player misses IR, and this is something to just keep track of in general, everyone listening, if a player does not land on IR, they're usually back before the IR stints. If you go on IR, you've got to sit 4 games. So if someone doesn't land on IR, expect them to be back in 4 games at the latest. And that is the track that Deshaun Watson seems to be on right now. Greg Dulcich did not participate with his hamstring injury. He is doubtful. I want to also point out that I read that IR is still on the table for him. Greg Dulcich continuously hurting his hamstrings. I want to say that was the injury that kept him out for the early portion of last season and the injury that kept him out of the early portion of this season as well. Just can't seem to work out his hamstring. I don't know what's going on there, but it's not like you can really start Adam Troutman. If anything, it just means a little bit more targets to the running backs and wide receivers. For the Lions, Craig Reynolds, Sam LaPorta, and Jahmyr Gibbs were all limited. David Montgomery did not practice this week. It's looking like it's going to be a Gibbs and Reynolds backfield. Sam LaPorta should be back out there as well. I'm excited for this Lions-Ravens game. We'll talk about it in a bit. Jaylen Guyton. This is one I've been teasing the past few weeks. Jaylen Guyton's 21-day practice window has officially been open. We've been talking about him kind of in conjecture with Quentin Johnson, just because he has that deep field threat. He has this field stretching role that Quentin Johnson potentially could have stepped into with the Mike Williams injury. But I always pointed out that Jaylen Guyton would be activated off the pup at some point, and he'll probably slide right into that role. If you're in a very, very deep league, I do think you can pick up Jaylen Guyton. I do. I think he's going to score some touchdowns this year. He's fast, and the Chargers don't really have that right now. So Jaylen Guyton looked to be a little bit of a sneaky player to keep your eye on. For the Rams, both Kyren Williams and Ronnie Rivers are officially out. I did want to backtrack a statement I made on Wednesday's show. I said, I guarantee Zach Evans will have 76 yards and a touchdown. That was before the Rams went out and signed Darrell Henderson. I firmly believe that they will just use Darrell Henderson because that is the most Rams thing to do. Darrell Henderson. Royce Freeman will probably get some usage as well. I am expecting a full-on committee with this Rams attack riding the hot hand. The only thing we know about this Sean McVay offense really is that running backs are important, so they definitely want to get them rolling, but not incredibly important, right? So I'm not expecting too much here from really any of the running backs, expecting a full-on committee this week, especially since they've got a decent matchup on Monday night against the Vikings. Jeff Wilson was a full participant for the Dolphins, looking like Jeff Wilson will make his season debut this week. Hunter Henry did not participate, looking like he might play, but just keep your eye on it because that does mean that Mike Gesicki would get the full-on tight end slot for this game against the Bills. And while the Patriots offense has been terrible, they should be passing a lot against the Bills. And also, Bill Belichick knows how to keep this game close for some reason. So I wouldn't be surprised if like a Mike Gesicki, like a tight end, right, just gets a touchdown, gets some extra usage. Keeping my eye on that one for sure because I do think Mike Gesicki could become a streamer in this game. Daniel Jones was limited, looking like he will be back this week. For the Steelers, Pat Freiermuth was limited. Deontay Johnson was a full participant. So looking like both of those guys will be back this week. Buy Kenny Pickett. I know I talked about that on Wednesday's show, but buy Kenny Pickett while you can. Go ahead and send out those offers because I do think now that the Steelers offense is at full strength, that they will be the normal Steelers. I still do firmly believe that they'll make a playoff push towards the end of the year. And if that's the case, they're going to have a late draft pick. They're not going to be able to replace Kenny Pickett. He's also playing at above replacement level. So having all his weapons back, I think will make him play a little bit better as well. I also would wager that George Pickens plays better as well, not getting the full attention on him, I guess you could say. For the 49ers, Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey did not participate. I don't know what to make of this. I'm not expecting Deebo Samuel to play, and I'm not expecting Christian McCaffrey to play. But the problem with both of these players is that they're so good that if they do play, you probably want them in their lineup. We talked about this a little bit with McCaffrey. I think I'm risking it with McCaffrey. If he doesn't play, you can pivot to Kyle Juszczyk. You can pivot to Jawan Jennings, right? We've got a game against the Vikings where some passing will be happening. Jawan Jennings should get you like 5 points or something. And that to me is worth the risk of pushing it with Christian McCaffrey. Like, yes, you're losing a ton of upside, but just risking the chance of that upside actually happening and Christian McCaffrey playing, to me, is worth also the risk of having to play Jawan Jennings. Like, I do think that that's a fine, not a good pivot, but just something like a good, I guess, risk outweighing the reward kind of thing, right? Where if Christian McCaffrey does play, you just don't want to sit him on the bench. And that's kind of the pain of Monday Night Football. I will say with Deebo Samuel, we've already seen once this year where he didn't participate all week, but still came out and played. And then he only had 1 carry, didn't even have a reception. So I think Deebo Samuel, you can comfortably sit in this game just because the last time we saw him try to play through an injury, nothing really happened. And then finally, DK Metcalf did not participate, but this has been the same injury he's been battling for weeks. I do fully believe DK Metcalf will be out there this week. Now, let's talk about some potential upsets. I think that some potential upsets this week we'll start, as we just talked about, the 49ers. I believe that the Vikings could at least cover against the 49ers. Right now, the 49ers are a 7-point favorite. But I think the Vikings, now their second week without Justin Jefferson, kind of have a game under their belt to work through those kinks. Plus the 49ers coming off a tough loss against the Browns and now potentially out without Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. I think that things could be tough for them. And I also know the Vikings are off to a tough start, that they're going to be playing very, very hard. It's a Monday Night Football game. It's prime time. I think that this game will at least remain close. And I'm just going to pick the Vikings as an upset in this one. Also, I have no idea why the Baltimore Ravens are favored over the Lions. They're favored by 3 against the Lions at home. So I guess it's just, the home points that you give the team. But still, I don't think the Ravens have any business keeping this game even really close. I think the Lions will probably win by almost 2 scores at least. I'm not expecting that close of a game, as we'll talk about in a second. And I think the Broncos will beat the Packers. Right now, the Packers are only 1.5-point favorites, but I'm picking a fun upset in the Broncos. I think that they also want to get things right, and the Packers are a good defense to do that against. Really just a good team to do that against in general, as they have been struggling. Now, let's talk about a must start and a must sit. Must start, Jameson Williams. I'm pulling deep into my bag this week. I could give you an easy one, but I'm going with Jameson Williams. 1, he caught the first touchdown of the season last week, and I already showed you a few good clips. He's running some spectacular routes. I think with Sam LaPorta at less than 100% and Jahmyr Gibbs at less than 100%, and the fact that this Ravens game was the game that Jameson Williams was originally supposed to return for, that I think that he's actually going to get the full expected workload and what we should see from Jameson Williams going forward. And since he hasn't popped off too much yet, I don't think the Ravens will be too focused on him. I think if anything, they'll be more focused on LaPorta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I do think that Jameson Williams sneaks by for at least one touchdown this week. And I think he gets at least 3 catches as well. I think Jameson Williams is in for a decent week this week. I'm starting him wherever I own him. And I'm sitting Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman has a very tough matchup this week against the Browns. They're number 1 against wide receivers right now. And not just that, I also just expect Gardner Minshew to have a tough game. That defensive line has been giving quarterbacks fits. We just saw Brock Purdy look human this week. Got his first regular season loss last week through his first regular season interception. It was just not good. And I can't expect the Colts to be good against the Browns either. I think this game is just going to be awful in general, especially if Deshaun Watson does return. I don't think either team hits 20. There's a really high chance the Colts don't even cross 10. Like, this is going to be terrible. The Browns defense has just been so good. So I'm not going to Michael Pittman this week. I am sitting him. And that's all I have for you guys. That is all I have for you guys. I think it's going to be a fun week. Actually, I've got 5 minutes. I've got 5 minutes before the Sonic Truth. I wanted to be quick, but why don't we, as usual, let me pull up my Yahoo Pick'em League. Why don't we go back into our bag of tricks there? We'll go through. We'll pick some teams. I've still got a few more minutes. Pro Football Pick'em Yahoo. All right, here we go. Here we go. Let me zoom in a little bit. That looks a little. All right. Well, I missed last night's game. Oops. Would have picked the Jaguars though. All right, Raiders at Bears. I'm going with the Raiders. Just not expecting the Bears really to be able to do anything without Justin Fields. I don't think Tyson Bagent is really that good, or at least not good enough to beat the Raiders in their first career start. Say what you will about the Raiders. They're still a decent football game. You've got Max Crosby. You've got Devontae Adams. You've got Jacoby Myers. You've got Josh Jacobs. I just think the Raiders are a bit more of a complete team. They should be able to handle this. Going with the Browns over the Colts. That one's easy. I know that the Browns haven't looked fantastic, but they also did just beat the 49ers, and I don't think the Colts with Gardner Minshew are going to be able to keep up. The Bills easily over the Patriots. Like I did hint at a little bit earlier, I think that this will be a little bit closer than some will suggest. It looks like, the Bills are favored by 8.5. I think that is a fair spread, but the Patriots do always have their divisional opponents. They know how to at least keep this close. They know how to game plan. Don't be surprised if Josh Allen throws a couple interceptions. I still do think that, again, if Hunter Henry is out, I think that Mike Gesicki will sneak in for a touchdown. Let's see. We've got Commanders at Giants. I'm going to go with the Giants here. Saquon's back. Daniel Jones is looking to be back. They played really well on defense last week against the Bills. I think that they're upset that they lost that game. They honestly should have won it. So, I'm going to go with the Giants. Not too impressed with the Commanders, especially with the way they're using Jahan Dotson. Now resorting him to special teams. Just don't think that they're that good of an organization right now. And within division, it's anyone's game. So why not go with the home team? Buccaneers versus Falcons. This one's going to be tough. Tampa is the home team. Looks like they're favored by 2.5 points, which is a decent spread. I think that I'm going to go with the Falcons, a little bit of a homer pick here, but I like the Falcons to win this game. It's going to be close, and it's going to have to come on the back of Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder can't turn the ball over more than once in this game. I think 1 turnover will be okay. 2 will be bad. And it's also, it really is just going to come down to quarterback play in general. If we get early season Baker Mayfield, the Buccaneers win. If we get last week's Baker Mayfield, the Falcons win. And I just think that we will get last week's Baker Mayfield. The Ravens at the Lions, again, easily. I believe the Lions will win this one. I'll go ahead and pick the upsets I already said. Minnesota. And what was the other one? Packers. It was the Packers over it was the Broncos over the Packers. Yeah. Broncos over the Packers. Go ahead, just knocking those in. Rams versus Steelers. Give me the Rams. TJ Watt hasn't been practicing this week. Cooper Kupp obviously playing at a really high level. I know the Rams don't have the running backs, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I know that it's the Steelers are going to be back at full strength as well, so I do expect this to be a close game, but I'm just going to give it to the Rams. They're the home team. Seahawks, Cardinals, give me the Seahawks right now. But if Kyler Murray does play, guys, do not be surprised if the Cardinals pull this one out. they've been playing well. They've been keeping teams close even without him. So I do think that the Cardinals could pull this one out if he does play. Chiefs Chargers, obviously got to go with the Chiefs there. They're not looking like postseason Chiefs, but still, Travis Kelce. Interesting to watch that Derwin James matchup. I know that Derwin James has had Kelce's number pretty much his entire career, but still going there with the Chiefs over the Chargers. Home team, got to keep it up. Chargers really not playing well. Eagles, Dolphins, that is Sunday Night Football, so I'm definitely going to be watching that one. That might be my favorite game of the week. Give me the Eagles. Give me the Eagles here. I think that Jalen Hurts, calling it here. Jalen Hurts, 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. A.J. Brown gets one. Devontae Smith gets one. Jalen Hurts rushes one in. Who gets that last touchdown? We'll give Devontae Smith 2. 2 touchdowns for Devontae Smith, 1 for A.J. Brown, and Jalen Hurts rushes one in. Going to be a Jalen Hurts ceiling game. Expecting the Eagles to pull it out. I've got to pay attention to what Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and really the rest of that Eagles defensive line can do against Tua Tagovailoa. Should be under duress, so be careful there if you're Tua. But I'm expecting a big game from everyone. I will say this. The Dolphins match up poorly against the Eagles in that they should not be able to run the ball as effectively as they have been. It's definitely going to come down to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, which means it's probably going to come down to Tyreek Hill. Because of that, I'll go with the Eagles. I guess I have to do who scores the most points. We'll go with, never mind. I can't do that anymore. All right, I'm going to save my picks. That was that. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Tune into the Starter Stream Show on Sunday to ask your starter sit questions. I'll be on TikTok at 11 a.m., Instagram at 11:30, and I believe Podfather or maybe Seth this week. I can't remember who's on this week for the YouTube version, but definitely go check that out. Just real quick, I see some questions right here at the bottom. I'll answer them very quickly, but you guys have to go check out the Sonic Truth. Why do you keep playing Ridley? Because that's what happens when you draft players with great names. You just can't bench players like Calvin Ridley. And I would do the same. I mean, I'm not benching Calvin Ridley. Unfortunately, I don't have the balls to do it because he can still have a good week. But that's why when I have players like Calvin Ridley, I try to trade them at all costs. I don't like having players that I can't justify benching. And Calvin Ridley's kind of one of those. Bench one, Justice Hill, Michael Mayer, or Jameson Williams. Probably Michael Mayer here. I know that he just had a good week, but still you can't depend on that week in, week out. And plus, this Raiders-Bears game just doesn't look like it's going to be that good of a game. Justice Hill at least would be my other choice. But they are playing the Lions, so he has just a high chance to score a touchdown, get some volume, just because that does project to be a high-scoring game. So that was the Wicked Take. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to the Podfather filling in Tuesday. Thank you so much to Ahan Rangta filling in yesterday. Glad to be back. I will see you all on Monday as we talk about our reactions to Sunday's happenings. It's going to be fun. As always, you guys have a fantastic Friday, a wonderful weekend, and I hope you win your Week 7 matchups. Have a good one. Peace.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.